right, everybody, so today we are going to get the automatic watering system put in. The last garden bed I got put in, I didn't video it because I figure you've seen the last four. Got the last garden bed put in. My sweet potato tubers came, so those are planted, as well as the melons, so the bed is planted. So now we just need to get the watering system going. This is what I used last year. It's just some little battery powered sun up, sundown timer. It actually works really good. The only thing is it kind of quit working. I'm thinking it's the battery. I changed the battery in it, so I'm gonna hook it back up and see if it works and get this watering system done. The other project we have is, as you can see, where the garden is nice and green lawn. Where the chickens are, it's very brown. The winter freeze killed all of the grass, and because chickens are such ravenous little critters, and anything green that pops up they immediately will scratch and eat, it hasn't had any chance to grow back, and so there's less bugs, and I want them to be happy. So I'm going to build some platforms so that some grass can grow underneath that they can't get to until it establishes some roots, and then those will just get moved around the yard throughout the summer, so hopefully they can have grass off and on. But those are our two projects that we have to get done before it gets too hot. So I need to get a new sun up timer. It's not the end of the world, they're only like 20 bucks. It works really good as far as every day. You can set your timer for how long you want it to water, and in Texas, because it gets so hot during the summer, right when the sun comes up is the best time. So I got the new one. But the next thing we're gonna do is attach this piece. It is a hose threaded connection to a PVC slip. So I'm gonna build a PVC automatic watering system. Last year what I did is I had garden hoses going to irrigation tubing, which were connected with one of these fancy little devices, and I had a pressure regulator that decreased the pressure. Unfortunately, and here, even though it's threaded, the irrigation tubing itself is not, and it would still end up coming loose. I'd have issues. We're gonna try and build a PVC watering system this year. Alright, so we are to the last irrigation head. It's the T-piece with the female threaded 3/4 inch. So then I have an adapter, so it's the double male, so it's a 3/4 inch to a 1/2 inch double male threaded. And then I have a 2.5 inch extender, and that is simply so that when I hook on this little sprinkler heads, the little hoses don't kink over as much because there'll be more room between the ground and them. So this is a 2.5 inch, just an extender. It's a 1/2 inch female threaded. And then this is the top. It's an 8-piece irrigation. I call it an octopus because it's 8, but you hook up the little drip irrigations to each one. Each one can be turned off and on with these. I'm not sure if they're on or off right now. All of them are up, so I think they're on. So after I get it hooked up, before I start putting on the sprinkler heads, I'm taking the caps off and facing them up, and then we will leak test and pressure test and see how it goes before I start cutting the hoses and putting on the drip irrigations. I went only finger tight on these 2 pieces. This is actually one of them that I had. I used the channel locks on, and you can see it actually tightened down so much that it split at the top. So these are actually kind of flimsy pieces. So these I only went finger tight with. I did go with the channel locks to get this one seated all the way. So that's exciting. The system pressure tested, it didn't leak. Every sprinkler head, including the very end one, the farthest one away, had pressure and was able to put out water. The last step we have is, last year I used these little drip head sprinklers. What they look like in the package is this. They're an adjustable drip stake, so they're really nice. They actually put off a nice pattern and you get a lot of water coverage with one sprinkler head. Problem is they're like $4 for a packet of 3. So with the PVC pipe, hopefully going to stand up to the pressure, I use the 3/4 inch PVC, and then I use the rain waterproof PVC connector, since obviously it's an irrigation system. And then I did use parts of the actual irrigation with the little octopus head, and then I'm going to use the sprinkler heads. So I'm going to repurpose the ones from last year, including the little landscaping tubing, and then I did buy more because I have a lot more sprinkler heads and more tubing. The sun up timer so far is working, at least in the on-off position, so we'll have to see if it actually works when the sun comes up, and set the timer. So hopefully tomorrow we'll find out if this works. All the drip heads are on, so we're going to turn it on, adjust the amount of pressure as far as how far they sprinkle versus not, and then set our timer. Here we go. So you can see some of them don't sprinkle very much. It's the cap is turned down. So what we do is we just take and adjust the top, and it clicks. You can see it starts sprinkling more. So we're just gonna go around and open up these tops to try and give them a little bit more range on their sprinkle. One of the reused ones is plugged up. Luckily, I have 2 extras. But something I want to show you is if you loosen them too much, the top can actually come off and it just becomes a geyser. So I'll come out and check my sprinklers every once in a while just to make sure none of the caps have fallen off, because I have had that happen in the past. Trying to get as much range as possible. Oh look, it works now. Trying to get as much range as possible. So I just come out and check them to make sure none of the caps are off so we don't have any geysers. But everything is adjusted. And at this point, it's been running for about 10 minutes, and you can see there's some nice good wet patches. The water should hopefully spread a little bit more the longer I let it run. So I'm thinking about probably setting it for half an hour to start, see how it does. How the timer works is really simple. Is right now I just have it turned on, so it's just an on and off switch, and then you can set it for the time. So 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30, 45, 60, so on and so forth. So last summer I started out at 15 and found that wasn't enough. I went to 30. And the garden beds I had last summer, 30 was a little too much, like there was just big puddles underneath the beds. But with the amount of mulch I have now, I'm thinking 30 will actually probably be just about right. So I'm gonna set my timer for 30. You'll hear it turn off. There we go. This is the little sunlight sensor, so when the sun goes down it will know, and then tomorrow morning as the sun comes up, this should kick on and water the plants for 30 minutes. I try to repurpose as much as possible, and especially with the price of lumber. So the plan for the elevated platforms is I'm going to repurpose these 4x4s that I had cut down from the previous fence that I had moved and use these for the long parts. And then I have some leftover 2x4 pieces and also some pallets to break down to use as the cross member. So that's the plan, to build our platforms to grow some grass for these hungry ladies. Frames finished last night. It was pretty much dark, so did not get a chance to get the hardware cloth on. So what I have is hardware cloth. It's 5 feet in length, 3 feet in width, and the frames are built pretty much to house those. Every once in a while they're a little long or a little short. Hopefully this roll will work. I already did this one, which you can see on the end. It's ever so slightly long, but it's good enough. It curls underneath, so I'm not really worried about having to trim it off. But the goal is, because of it's only the 1/2 inch squares, the girls can't fit their beaks or faces through, so they'll have to wait for the grass to actually come up in order to eat it. Once the grass has grown really well, I'll actually probably move this to a different spot in the yard and start growing other grass and let them destroy the current grass. It is going to rain all week long, off and on, so I really want to get this grass seed planted and started growing. So the last thing we have to do, friends, on this episode is actually plant the grass seed. I'm not going to use fertilizer, even though the package suggests that I should, just because of the chickens. I'm not really sure. So I'm going to rough up the ground with this handy little thing and then plant the grass seed. The seed I have, Zenith Zostria, which for here in Texas is a very drought tolerant, sun tolerant mix. Since my backyard sits out in the sun, especially where I have the 2 platforms at, I need something that's going to be very drought and sun tolerant. So other than not using fertilizer, It says to rake, prepare the ground, plant the seed, and water. Well, since it's supposed to rain for the next week, I figure now is the perfect time. So we're gonna get this in. Join me next time to see what else I have going on my little suburban homestead. Bye.